gon' slide, you know we gon' seek to kill. What? That boy deceased for real. Better be cool, you not on that block, you not in the streets for real. Lil' buddy gon' slide, he load up the 9, you know.
Yo, what is going on, people? And welcome back to the Main Event Podcast. I am your host, Jonathan Pibney. My co-host, KO Sports Talk, will not be in today, but we will keep the podcast growing and just keep going. So the matchup, of course, is the Chicago Bears taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers. And of course, if you know the history between the Bears and the Steelers, especially over the past 15, 16 years, the Chicago Bears have indeed been winning just about every matchup. Now, the last time the Bears did lose to the Steelers, of course, that was Jerome Bettis famously running over Defensive Player of the Year, Brian Urlacher. And yeah, the Steelers did win that game, I believe, somewhere between 21-14 or 21-17 that year. Since then, the Chicago Bears, of course, have been winning constantly. So yeah, man, it's going to be a real tough matchup for the Chicago Bears. I don't know if they're going to win it. Maybe if KO was here, then he'd be able to speak on how he feels about it. But just going to just base it on my perspective. The Chicago Bears been winning, of course, like I said, for the past 16 years, and I believe that their time is going to be officially up. The Chicago Bears is going to wind up losing this game. Yeah, you can say overtime Pittsburgh have always played to the level of their competition, and that's the reason why the Bears was always able to get the victory, because it wasn't always that the Bears was having winning records when the season was over, but the Bears will always get a victory against them, and majority of the time beat the hell out of the entire AFC North. So yeah, the times have changed. The Bears still stuck in the past, while everybody else is continuously moving forward in the future, and the Bears just seems to be the only ones that stuck in the past. Not only, yeah, of course, the Bears' mantra is running the football, but when it comes down to actually being able to pass the football, the Bears still have shown the inability to be able to do it on a more consistent basis. And that's the thing that just frightens me. Out of all the mess that have been going on, even shout out to John Zagul from Sports Talk Chicago. He even spoke on it briefly. Matt Nagy, of course, was brought in to be the offensive guru. The last year under John Fox, the Bears passed for 175 yards per game, and it was the worst in the league. Now, under Matt Nagy in year 4, the year that it's supposed to so-called be the time that this offense just takes the hell off. Instead, the Bears is passing for like 135 yards per game. Just simply not going to get it done. And even with him not being there, the Bears still only passed for like 180 yards, 185 yards throughout the entire game. So it's not like it was a huge improvement. Now, the only difference is that the Bears was able to move the ball more constantly down the field. And that's one of the main things that did help the Bears be able to score more points. But 22 points in today's NFL will not get it done. And just basically just looking at it from a Steeler, like if I was a Steeler fan standpoint, the Steelers do have one of the more dominant offensive lines. They dominated the hell out of Cincinnati defensive line, who actually have a lot of money on there, and they definitely do know how to play, and they know how to play real hard. And guess what, man? Najee Harris, they running back was still able to gain a lot of yards, and he still right now is on track to becoming Rookie of the Year and possibly stealing it away from Jamar Chase. That's a small possibility of that actually happening. That's how good he has been, especially over the past 3 weeks. I believe he has over 300 yards rushing in the past 3 weeks and 3 rushing touchdowns, and has had the most touches within that span and within that 3-game span. Of course, who probably would have been Derrick Henry, but he did, of course, get hurt. But that's a whole nother story. Now, there's a lot of injuries going into this game, especially going to the Chicago Bears. They got a lot of key guys out. Just going to read a few of the stories about the Bears and then let you know exactly what's going on with the team. And then let's just see if this team can find a way to do it. But like I said before, going to be talking a little bit about what's going on. And one of the main guys that is out, of course, is Khalil Mack. We already seen the impact of him not being there. What does that affect uh, basically to the team? They couldn't stop the run at all without Khalil Mack being there. To let you know how well he set the run and basically forced him to be able to have to run it inside, which made it that much more difficult for teams. And with him not being there, they were just able to run towards the side that he was at. But he's no longer there. Instead, it was number 99 Gibson, or it was another guy back there. They was able to easily be able to just move them out the way. They wasn't able to set the edge on a consistent basis and constantly just ran toss plays, whether it was the left side or the right side. And then they just basically was able to carve up the Bears and go straight downfield. So the story is that there is no improvement for Khalil Mack, and just and the injury starting to mount to it. It's not only Mack, but it's also Eddie Jackson that remains amongst the Bears players that continues to miss practice. And the Chicago Bears head into their final days against final days of preparation against the Pittsburgh Steelers, because they do take them on Monday Night Football, and the situation is basically not a positive one. The only player whose injury status has changed in the first 2 days of practice, and that was wide receiver Darnell Mooney, who has battled a groin injury on and off since the season has started, and he was limited in Friday's practice. Of the other players who are indeed injured, that is on the injury report, and that includes Khalil Mack. Also, it does who has a very bad foot injury, but also Eddie Jackson with his hamstring injury. Linebacker Oleg Ogletree also has uh, a knee injury, along with Damian Williams as well. And tight end J.P. Holtz has a concussion. Quarterback Nick Foles has been absent both days due to illness. Hopefully, that's not COVID-19, because then that can spread throughout the entire team, and then even more players to be missing, and then it'll be more of one of those situations that we seen last year when it came down to the Denver Broncos. And yeah, that ended very horribly. We don't need that to happen for the Bears. But the situation involving Max seems unlikely to change until after the bye week, following Monday's game with the Steelers. So that can be a good thing to further reevaluate Khalil Mack to see exactly what his status is leading up to that. If there is no improvement after that, and if the Bears feel like they're not going anywhere this year, they're not going to win enough games to get to the playoffs or anything like that, then that's when you shut Khalil Mack down. But if the Bears still feel like there's at least a small chance of being able to get to the playoffs at least, and try to battle for a playoff spot, or at least play spoiler to a lot of teams, and the Bears should possibly bring him back and just continue to let him take off, only if he is able to do so. But let's just go right back into it. The idea is to get him as close to full strength as possible and not force him to limp through games or play fewer snaps. It's possible 2 more weeks off until the Baltimore game at Soldier Field, that is on November 21st, could aid his return. Basically, defensive coordinator painted a picture where it must be a serious foot injury that Mack couldn't play at a reduced capacity. I'm not sure it's anything specific. We saw because you saw what he was like when he wasn't at 100%, and it has been a few weeks, and he's still been able to produce and be an impact player, even with him not being 100% as well. And they just feel like basically they should keep him back and hold him for those medical reasons to make sure he does not get any worse. Because of course you don't want one of your highest players or your highest paid player not to be there at all. You know, to be able to miss he wound up missing the entire season. Of course, Khalil Mack was battling multiple injuries even last year and still finished with 9.5 sacks, bar none. A few of them was taken away because of bogus penalties. One of them was against Tom Brady, which that one he should have just let him go. If he let him go, he'd have had 10+ sacks once again. But didn't happen the way it did. It is what it is. But also, too, not a player returning, but the coach of the Chicago Bears. Coach Matt Nagy is returning, and he's returning from of course, the COVID-19 protocol. And of course, we're going to see how different this offense moves with him being there. And there's been small rumors as well that Matt Nagy, that the Bears is actually looking to replace Coach Matt Nagy. Now, if they actually is looking to replace Coach Matt Nagy, it is what it is. You know, that's something that should have been happening before the season even kicked off. Like after everything that happened last year with the Mitchell Trubisky situation, even if they didn't bring him back, Matt Nagy shouldn't have at least been brought back either. And now, just based on how the season turned out, yeah, it has been key free agents brought in, but because the offensive line is not cognizant enough to be able to block on a more consistent basis, none of that shit means nothing. So now both of them should be gone, plain and simple. Regardless of what happened this season, at least one of those guys should be gone, and the main target, of course, should be Matt Nagy. And then make sure that if Ryan Pace can bring in a guy that is better suited for this team, that can actually make this offense look a lot better and cognate than it has looked over the past 3 years, then yes, Ryan Pace needs to be gone immediately with Matt Nagy, but it is what it is. But Matt Nagy told reporters that he was cleared on Tuesday after testing positive for COVID-19, October 25th, and had to quarantine for the last 8 days. Matt Nagy missed the Bears' 33-22 loss to the San Francisco 49ers on Sunday, as the special teams coordinator, Chris Tabor, had to take over his duties for that game. And he did say, and I quote, "I was cleared on Tuesday. I was back in the office Tuesday morning. I was able to get back in here and get back to some quoting unquote normalcy. It was an awesome seeing all the coaches and really just kind of getting back on track," Nagy said. "You only missed a week. How the hell you got to get back on track? Like, what the hell happened? You act like you didn't talk to nobody on the phone or none of that during the game, or at least have some type of input on the game plan that was happening, regardless if you was quarantined, Coach Nagy." But it is what it is. Nagy said that he quarantined in a hotel room where he also watched Sunday's game. Watching the game was hard. You don't like it. You just sit there and watch it, and you try to figure out what play call is, and understand, okay, oh yeah, it was this play call, good play call, or it was different, and it was hard, he said, according to the team's website. Now, Nagy did say as well, he didn't eat or drink during the game, was more nervous than normal. Yeah, I know why it was more nervous than normal for Coach Nagy, because he wasn't able to say just about anything. He wasn't able to do anything. All he could do was sit there like a normal fan would. But Nagy also announced that the Bears was designating running back David Montgomery to return from injury reserve, starting the 21-day practice window for the Bears to decide whether to activate him or not. He's been sidelined since early October with a left sprained knee, and the Bears held a walkthrough practice on Thursday to prepare for the Week 9 game against Pittsburgh Steelers at Heinz Field on Monday night yet again. So that is the injury report that is going on with the Bears. Of course, the Steelers do also have multiple injuries as well, but they don't have as many as the Chicago Bears. Now, like I said before, in order for Pittsburgh to be able to win this game, it's very simple. They're just going to have to make sure that they keep the ball out of Ben Roethlisberger's hands. Keep the ball out of his hands as much as possible and make sure that when you do throw the ball, it's off play action. He's hitting players deep down the field, picking up real big chunk plays, and attacking the middle of the field because the Bears do have a hard time defending that. They have had a hard time defending that ever since Urlacher first retired from the team. Ever since then, I haven't seen so many plays be made in between the safeties in the deep middle, like since Urlacher had retired. Since 2013, it has just been a clusterfuck. So yeah, the Bears definitely has to make sure they get that shit together, because if not, it is what it is. The Steelers will take advantage of that. They will take advantage of it because, like I said before, they have one of the most dominating offensive lines that is able to move anybody out the way, and they're able to extend plays by holding their blocks a lot longer than the average offensive lineman is seen, and they allow their running back to be able to dance, manipulate the pocket, and find the holes, and be able to tread right up the field for a decent 15, 20-yard gain. And he has the speed, he has the power, he has the shiftiness, he has everything you want in a running back. And he's even able to catch the ball out of the backfield when the Steelers do need him to. So he can provide a steady dose of run-pass action, and he is a decent pass-protecting running back as well. So the Bears definitely going to have to try to cook up some type of game plan to make sure that they are able to stop the Pittsburgh Steelers, or at least limit Najee Harris enough that they are able to force Big Ben to have to pass the ball a little bit more. And if they're able to do that and capitalize on the mistakes that he makes, then the Bears can come out with the victory. But if they do not, the Steelers will definitely take this game. It will be another high-scoring game, but the Bears, once again, will not be able to score enough points, and the Steelers will probably end up winning this game 35-24. And that's if the Bears offense is able to put up a similar performance to what they did last week, if not perform slightly better. That's only how that actually can happen. But like I said before, the Chicago Bears has been super inconsistent, and the most points they put up was 22, and that's just last week. Throughout the entire season, the Bears have not put up anything over 23 points yet. I don't even think the Bears even scored 23 points yet in the regular season. So it is what it is. But like I said, I did say that the Steelers did have injuries as well, and here they are. Of course, Ben Roethlisberger, he's going to play in this game. He is questionable. He does have a pectoral injury and also a hip injury, has a shoulder injury as well, and was limited at Friday's practice. But we do know that Ben Roethlisberger will play. That man been on the injury list almost every year since maybe his second or third year in the league. And he's still been playing in the league since, 2004? So, yeah, that's a lot of injuries that this man's been dealing with and continue to be a constant performer. Up next is the tight end, Eric Ebron. Bears, I already know about Eric Ebron up close, of course, because he played for the Detroit Lions. Then he ended up going to the Colts and now the Steelers. But Ebron does have a hamstring injury. He was limited in Friday's practice. He is also questionable, but I do expect Ebron to be playing in this game. And also the center's B.J. Finney, the center. His status is questionable, but there is no status on what type of injury that he does have. but he is questionable. I do feel like he might play as well. And then you do have a few guys that is on the injured reserve, who is Carlos Davis, Juju Smith-Schuster, Tyson Alialu, Stephen Tuitt, Joshua Dobbs, and Demarcus AC, all guys that is on the injured reserve list. And then I'll just run down their injuries very quick. Davis was placed on injury reserve Wednesday, but they have not specified his injury. So unless you were still as fair, you would know the exact injury that these guys did suffer. Also, Juju Smith-Schuster, in injury reserve. The defensive end, Alialu, also was placed on injury reserve Monday with an ankle injury. I just remember back in the day when if you put a player on injury reserve, that meant that they was gone for the entire year. So I'm happy that the NFL at least was able to find a way to not have that be that damn long. Because if that had to happen, then yeah, you basically have to put your guy on injury reserve. He's gone for the rest of the year. Then you have to find a player to replace him on the roster spot. So yeah. But Stephen Tuitt was placed on injury reserve for undisclosed reason Wednesday, as they reported variety of the Steelers official sites. Joshua Dobbs, quarterback, they also placed him on injury reserve due to a toe injury on Tuesday. And also Demarcus AC, he has a new knee injury and was reverted to IR on Thursday, what the NFL reporter Aaron Wilson had reported as well. So the Steelers do have a lot of injuries as well, along with the Chicago Bears. But it seems like they have less key injuries at the most important positions. Now, of course, missing Juju Smith-Schuster is a big blow for the Pittsburgh Steelers. But when you still have cognate backup receivers that still can be able to make plays out in the open field and is actually able to find a way to get open, and you have a very cognate running back in Najee Harris, then you can make things work no matter what. But man, this is going to be a real tough game for the Bears. I hope I'm wrong. I'm hoping I'm wrong, and the Bears is able to continue the trend of constantly beating the Steelers. The Bears is able to beat the Steelers the entire goddamn time. That's gonna make me real happy. The Bears continue to streak of multiple years. Every time they match up with the Pittsburgh Steelers, it comes out as a victory for the Bears. It had reached a point where that's what I always expected. That the Chicago Bears to come out with this victory. It didn't matter how bad the record was for the Bears. It didn't matter how good the record was for the Steelers. The Bears always found a way to get the victory against them. And the Steelers, yeah, it didn't matter if they had Antonio Brown or Le'Veon Bell. It didn't matter back then when they had Willie Parker and all of the above, when they still had Hines Ward. The Bears just still found a way to come out with the victory over them. Now, will that trend continue this time around? I don't think so. But it is the NFL. Crazy shit do happen all the goddamn time. So I'm not gonna say, oh man, it's not gonna happen. It never happened before. But yeah, it's definitely happened so many goddamn times to a point that it's like, come on now, it is what it is. But yeah, man, that's gonna be it for me, guys. I wish Kofi was here so that he can also be able to put his viewpoints on it as well. But it's all good. Just make sure to check out the Main Event Podcast every Friday, of course. We will be doing it. And then next Friday, we will be doing it together. Even though the Bears, I believe, have a bye week next week, we'll just talk about what the things they have to do during the bye week, which players will be getting healthy. We'll be giving you further updates on everything that is going on. And then, of course, the following week after that, the Bears take on the Baltimore Ravens. Another AFC North game. And it's going to be another very tough matchup for the Bears. Bears have usually matched up very well with the AFC North, like I said before. But Like I said, everybody else is progressing further and further in the future and able to put up more and more points. And the Bears still seems to be stuck in 2005, 2006, and still not able to put up the amount of points that is necessarily needed to win an NFL game in 2021. Because guess what? More rules is for the offense, less rules is to help the defense, and the defense does not have the talent to be able to sustain a lot of success in today's NFL. But like I said, people, just remember to hit that like and subscribe button. And if you are a returning subscriber, make sure to hit that like and share the video. And just make sure to hit that notification bell as well so that you can receive all of your content from me, Jonah Pitney. I was supposed to do a sports hangout this Wednesday that passed. Just a lot of stuff that was going on. Wasn't able to make it, so I will be doing a special edition of the Jonah Pitney Sports Hangout this Saturday. So we'll be participating in that around 8:30 p.m. So just make sure to tune in to that as well, and you might catch a few normal guests, some new guests that come on, of course. Got KO Sports Talk that has been a guest on there. The Ghost of You Trap has been a guest on there. Butters, Chicago Joker Butters has been a guest on there. Giants Nation, Mr. YTC, CEO Top Dog, but people probably know him by seeing Seto Kaiba's bank account. You know, it has been a lot of guys on the Titan Troll, CG Ruthless Sports. It's a lot of special guys that be on that every week. So it could be a mixture of guys all the time. So, but just make sure you tune into that, people. And this is Jonah Pitney bringing it back to you with another main event podcast. Just check us out next week. Me and Kofi O'Henry will be back together next week, talking about the Chicago Bears and of course discussing what happened in this game. Talk about what's going to happen in the next game, and talk about what they need to do to get everything together during that bye week. So, all right, people. Peace out and go Chicago Bears.
I really came back on my shit, my bad. Remote my partner left my shit. Fresh in the ball of the bread. Okay. So bread, that mean it's lit.